Good morning and welcome to a brand new edition of the Dumoy Factor. It's usually said in strategy circles that the essence of strategy is deciding what not to do. The essence of strategy is deciding what not to do. Joseph Newman Boakai, in his over 40 years in public service as a bureaucrat, clearly didn't learn a lot about strategy. Boakai consistently shows lapses in his ability to make strategic calculations. In this video, I will share with you the key strategic blunders of Joseph Newman Boakai that has handed the leadership of the opposition to Alexander Benedict Cummings. I will also share with you Joseph Newman Boakai's revenge strategy as to how he can ensure that even though he is not going to be president, that Alex Cummings doesn't become a president. And in that process, Joseph Newman Boakai would be betraying the Liberian people, and giving George Weah a second term. I will do that after I take a few lines of this track to get things together here. So we'll listen to Dr. J.
My people, where you at? Where you at? Working for your slumber, stop slipping. Whip your hands, whip your hands, whip your hands, whip your. Come on, come on, come on. I know y'all sleeping now. Y'all gotta wake up some more, yeah? Okay, let's go. The people who are so, the people lie to us, the government betray us. They can lie, they can steal. I said we tired with their lies, we tired with their promises that left us to a lot of damages. We tired with that speech they preach in DNA unique they deceive us. They think we saw, they frustrate us. So why can't you lie? Why can't you steal? Why can't you lie? There's tendency so we see, we just tell you that why we both tell you. But you fool us, you screw us, you use us and you abuse us. So why? They always should lie. Why? But that's the question that we ask. People fool us, the people lie to us, they always betray us, they lie. The people fool us, the people lie to us, the government betray us, they can lie, they can steal, they will not. No one to trust. My people don't want to hope on nobody. My hope that I have been broken. Telling you, so where are the schools? Where are the roads? Where are the jobs that they say they go for? But they too selfish. The people tired with their rhetoric. People tired, they tired. You see the reason why we ask why the government betray. They have enough of time, but yeah, then stay they delay. People suffer. No work for people crying for hunger. Look at. Your vision and your mission, your intention to the nation, they poor. You got nothing to show. Nothing. So why? The government should lie. Why? But that they.
Yeah, Takun J there with they lied to us. I just thought to play a few parts of that before launching into today's analysis. I opened with a quote that the essence of strategy is deciding what not to do. Joseph Newman Boakai will not be president of the Republic of Liberia because he was incapable of deciding what not to do. Not deciding what to do, but what not to do. Remember, in 2017, Joseph Newman Boakai decided to fight Ellen Johnson Sirleaf. I want you to keep this in mind, that Joseph Newman Boakai will not be president of Liberia because he has failed to determine what not to do. Now, let's go back into the courtroom. Yesterday, Sema Serena Cephas stood up in open court and admitted that he didn't have evidence and that he's expecting Alexander Benedict Cummings to provide Serena Cephas and the government of Liberia the evidence they need to establish fraud. What this man brought, after being given 5 days to adduce the evidence he's relying on to prosecute Alexander Benedict Cummings and others from the ANC. Serena Cephas reported a copy of the framework document that everybody got. Several copies of different versions leading up to the final version. And this is what you call incontrovertible evidence. When pressed, he said Cummings will provide the evidence. This is unseen, unheard of. But I predicted it right here on this show. The government of Liberia, Benona Ure, ALP, the United Party, working in concert as a threatened regime, which is the George Weah regime, and its collaborators, Ure and Boakai. They brought criminal charges against Cummings without a shred of evidence. Serena Cephas, as Solicitor General and Chief Prosecutor of the Republic of Liberia, talked to Spoon Network a few days ago and other radio stations to mislead the Liberian people that he had incontrovertible evidence and that he was 100% convinced that they can secure a conviction. I listened to Cephas' bluff. I called Cephas' bluff on this show. I said Cephas has no evidence. Here is why I was able to see yesterday, weeks ago. These are the 3 telltale signs that I followed. 1, I am 100% sure that Alexander Benedict Cummings is innocent. So I know as a rational person that you cannot have evidence for a crime that was never committed. 2, Councillor Cephas started to play politics by requesting for the presence of television camera in the court, something he knew would not be granted. Something he knew would not be granted. Right there, I knew that this guy doesn't have evidence. He's looking to delay this case. The third thing I looked at, the allegations that they relied upon to prosecute are old allegations. These are allegations that was made last year by Benona Ure. We all know Benona Ure's connection to Henry Costa, the loudest mouth in Liberia. Between Costa and Ure, between those two, the amount of recklessness that is present, you will clearly know that if they had any shred of evidence, it would have been contained in one of those bombshells. There is no way Henry Costa can be that disciplined. Okay, I repeat. Because Ure is connected to Costa and Costa is indisciplined, there is no way that he could have access or knowledge of evidence linking Honorable Alexander B. Cummings to fraud and then keep that away from the public. That is not possible. That cannot be. So I knew that Mr. Cephas was lying. I also received intelligence report that the US were behind effort to sue Alexander B. Cummings civilly on behalf of court officers that were quote unquote brutalized or were involved in an altercation. That civil lawsuit is to serve as a backstopper because Ure, by bringing on a frivolous lawsuit such as this, has exposed himself to legal fire. Now, Alexander B. Cummings can sue Ure and everyone else connected with these with these defaming tactics that threatened to undermine his character. That would now expose Ure financially. So Ure was trying to hedge. So immediately I saw that, number one, this guy is asking for TV camera. He knows he will not get it, but he's going to get like a week or two to keep this thing running in the press. Then I heard him expanding the case, saying, oh, we got to bring this other person on, bring the other person on, expanding the net. Then the fourth thing is, I know that if Ure and Costa had evidence, there's no way they'll keep it for almost a year. It's not possible. When I opened the show, I opened with a quote about strategy, and I connected it to Joseph Newman Boakai. Why did I do that? I'm connecting it to Joseph Newman Boakai because everything we are witnessing is Joseph Newman Boakai's attempt to poison the well. Since he has decided that he lacks the strategic advantages required to become president of Liberia come 2023, and that he further to that lacks the capacity to capture the opposition, Joseph Newman Boakai have decided to do the following. Number one, he will attack the character of Alexander Cummings to undermine his electability. So Joseph Newman Boakai is now pursuing revenge rather than victory. Boakai understands that in the calculus, in the opposition calculus, he lacks the positioning to attract the largest segment of the opposition. It is now who got the most votes in the last election that will win the next election. If that was the case, there will not be an election because we know that we have got the most votes in 2017. But because we believe conditions may have shifted and things have changed, that is why every 6 years, consistent with the 1986 Constitution, we hold these contests. The advantages that Joseph Newman Boakai had going into 2017 are lost. Number one, I'm saying quasi incumbency because he didn't have the full support of the Unity Party. He didn't have the full Unity Party behind him. So quasi incumbency advantage. Joseph Newman Boakai was in almost every newspaper, almost every day, promotionally. Now, to do so, he will have to spend. Joseph Boakai is basically hanging by a thread. I mean, about 20 regular callers on all the radio stations and Facebook profile is the only thing keeping him alive. He lacks the resources to keep himself in the press. He also lost the advantage of moving across all of Liberian territory with convoy and free petroleum. Joseph Newman Boakai went to Lofa this Christmas. It was rare because it's been years since he's done that. And it cost him a lot. This is not something he can repeat often. And so Joseph Newman Boakai, finding out that he lacks the strategic positioning to clinch the Liberian presidency, is not going to go to the race. I told you, Boakai wants to sell. I told you a few weeks ago, Joseph Boakai was assessing who he could sell to. we will never know everything that happened in Accra. But I know that Joseph Newman Boakai wants to be bought out of the 2023 process. And everything he does to appear like a winnable candidate is a marketing gimmick. This is almost like when you are trying to sell a car. When you are trying to sell a car, the first thing you do is you wash it clean and make sure the interior is clean, make it smell nice. You go to the mechanic, you try to fix it up, preparing it to sell. So the new headquarters, the pretense that there is a 2023 bid, the establishment of networks is all to project himself to be bought. I will take a few minutes off to deal with sweat, and then get back to some of the ways Joseph Newman Boakai is seeking to destroy the opposition now that he cannot lead it. We'll go back, play a little bit of Takunje, deal with the sweat.
So now we are the line. My people, where you at? Where you at? Wake up from the slumber, stop sleeping. Whip your hands, whip your hands, whip your hands, whip your. Come on, come on, come on. I know you're sleeping now. You gotta wake up some more, yeah? Okay, let's go. The people fool us. The people lie to us. The government betray us. They betray us so much. I said they lie. The people fool us so. The people lie to us. The government betray us. We tired with their lies. We tired with their promises that led us to all our damages. We tired with their speech they preach in the and now you need they deceive us. They think we saw it frustrate us. So why did you lie? Why did you steal? Why did you allow the citizens to be? See, we just tell you that why we go tell you. But you fool us, you screw us, you use us and later on abuse us. So why? The government should lie. Why? But that the question that we ask, they lie. The people fool us, the people lie to us.
Yes. So we're discussing Joseph Newman Boakai's revenge. Joseph Newman Boakai is revenging. He wants to take a revenge against Alexander B. Cummings because he believes that Cummings is the man who cost him the leadership of the opposition. Joseph Newman Boakai is bitter. And so his attack strategy, his revenge strategy, is to go for the character of Cummings. That is why he associated, aided, and abated in his frivolous hoping that when he puts Cummings in the docket, Cummings would have been successfully associated with crime and criminality, and that this will help George Manuel Weah in the contest between Weah and Cummings, because Boakai is clear he's not going to be on the ballot. So Joseph Boakai wants to use these pre-election months to destroy Cummings' chances of winning against Weah. If I can't have it, nobody should have it. Joseph Newman Boakai is no longer concerned. Joseph Newman Boakai is no longer concerned with making Weah a one-term president. Joseph Newman Boakai's new objective is to ensure that Alexander Cummings never becomes president. Because in his mind, Alex Cummings is the reason why he will not be president. Remember, I opened by quoting that in strategy, the essence of strategy is to decide what you will not do. Joseph Boakai blundered from the early stages of the formation of the CPP by deciding to harm rather than to charm Cummings. The long battle with Cummings did not result in a glorious victory of the Unity Party. What it did was that it undermined potential donors' confidence in a Boakai presidential ticket. So those who wanted to support Joseph Numa Boakai financially laid down a prerequisite that in order for a septuagenarian, a man in his 70s, to win an election without resources and who had a tainted record of being vice president for 12 years with nothing to show, the only way he can win is when he is propped up by oppositionists like Cummings and Bromskin's Liberty Party. So those in Sierra Leone, those in Abuja, those in Accra that wanted to help the old statesman save the country from this playful president laid a prerequisite that if Joseph Numa Boakai is able to get his colleagues to trust him with the job of leading them into the elections with George Weah, then they will finance it. Knowing this to be the case, it was foolhardy or unwise for JMB to encourage any altercation, because all of this altercation could have been happening this year. Why did he allow Ure to start attacking Cummings that early on and plant a seed of doubt in the minds of people who wanted to finance Joseph Boakai 2023? It's not just money that Joseph Boakai's miscalculation has cost him. It has also cost him talent. So here is the divide in the Unity Party. Another miscalculation about choosing what not to do. Joseph Numa Boakai had no business launching a full-on war with Ellen Johnson Sirleaf in 2017. He had no business expelling Ellen Johnson Sirleaf after the election of 2017. But he did those things. And in addition to that, in constituting the executive committee, reconstituting the executive committee post-election, Joseph Numa Boakai chose to purge. He chose to go after people he thought were still working or loyal to Ellen Johnson Sirleaf. Now, why would Ellen invest any confidence or get any of her contacts or people close to her to finance or aid with Joseph Boakai campaign when Boakai is witch hunting everybody that had any connection to Ellen Johnson Sirleaf in his executive committee? That was a strategic blunder of Joseph Numa Boakai. Again, not being capable of choosing what not to do. Joseph Numa Boakai got himself in a state where all of the people who made money during Ellen time, the former finance minister Amara Kone, who was threatened by the George Weah administration and started to have sympathy for the opposition, is now openly saying that he has no confidence in the CPP, meaning has no confidence in Joseph Numa Boakai. Most of those who made money during the Ellen time were also loyal to Ellen. These are the people who orchestrated the victories of Ellen. These are the people who know where things are in a deep state. Joseph Numa Boakai went for the angry and the disgruntled Unity partisan, whom are also the ones that are broke, whom are also the ones that are only able to do the politics of bomb throwing and gaslighting, who are also the ones that open multiple fronts. And so that's what cost Joseph Newman Boakai his glorious run in 2023. But will Boakai admit to these failures? No. His scapegoat is Alex Cummings. That Cummings stopped me. And so these are the strategies of Boakai. Number one, attack the character of Cummings by associating with his frivolous lawsuit. Number two, arm Weah with insights and the opposition playbook to give the president a leg up on Cummings. As we prepare to go to 2023, Joseph Newman Boakai and Benona Yue have turned over all of the WhatsApp group chats between and amongst political leaders under the guise of trying to fight the case. Do you know that Yue has given all CPP internal discussions, turned everything over to Serena Cephas, and by extension, turned it over to Weah? So that now is going to be the source of CDC propaganda. CDC can come up in May and doctor those text messages to claim whatever manner of thing. This is Joseph Newman Boakai telling you he is not running for office and he doesn't care. Maybe you are someone maybe you're someone who holds Joseph Newman Boakai in high esteem and you think he's not capable of the things I am accusing him of. Number one, that he's not capable of letting his supporters down and standing down and leaving the race. Number two, that he's not capable of breaking promises. Now, if you are one of those people who believe that Joseph Newman Boakai is a man of his word, I refer you to the speech Boakai gave on the 15th of October when he took over as CPP chair. In that speech, Joseph Newman Boakai assured all of us, he assured all of you, that he will institutionalize the CPP and that the disagreements would not lead to the disintegration of the CPP. Today, what is Joseph Newman Boakai telling you? That he is leaving the CDC, the CPP. This tells you that Joseph Newman Boakai is very capable of deceit or of breaking his promises. And so disarm yourself, or I want to, there's a word I want to use that I can't find. Disabuse yourself of that view that this is a credible statement and that all of his words are true and they're a reflection of his commitment. Joseph Boakai has shown that we can't trust him. On the question of 2023, we cannot trust him. That he will switch and flip as his personal interest demands. Now that Joseph Newman Boakai cannot be a winner, he is working to be a spoiler. What I can't get, Alex must not get, or nobody else in the opposition must get. Joseph Boakai is aware that if Alexander Cummings is not destroyed and systematically taken apart, and if his name is not dragged through the mud, that if he is allowed to face Weah as the only serious opposition candidate on the ballot, he will beat Weah face down. Joseph Boakai is aware of that. Joseph Boakai is aware that only his participation in the contest can limit Cummings' chances, because a Cummings versus Weah is absolute victory for Cummings. Absolute victory for Cummings. I don't know where people on the streets that usually tell we are that division in the opposition, and if Cummings runs, you will win because people know you, and nobody know Cummings. I dare you to go to any part of Liberia where nobody know the name Cummings. I dare you. There is nobody living in Liberia who do not know the name Cummings or have not heard. Thank God for the poor strategies adopted by this government. Cummings is known in all 15 counties and frequent most of them. There is nowhere. Someone comes and say, oh, Cummings has never been to Grand Jide. I say in video clip of Cummings in Grand Jide talking to people. I mean, it's almost like someone usually told a joke about a journalist that published a story that a person died. Let's say you publish a story that I died. I walk in a newsroom, I say, but let me hear another. The message I stand by my story. So some analysts are standing by the analysis, even though the sand is shifting. Cummings is popular. Cummings is well known. Cummings is a winnable candidate because he is the only presidential candidate that stayed in the CPP. The Liberian people will punish anybody who was in the CPP and left to go and run solo. And if Joseph Numa Boakai gets bought out by WIA, which is what I think he's doing now, he will make Cummings the only alternative, and the Liberian people will not hesitate to vote for Cummings. If that's how they can offend WIA, if that's how they can hurt WIA, if that's how they can revenge the fact that WIA took away 30% of their income as civil servants, if that's how they can pay WIA back for the suffering and the hardship, then they will do it. Cummings will not win because he's the most popular politician. He will win because he is the only road to a one-term presidency of WIA. Even people that don't like Cummings will vote for Cummings. That hold your nose and vote. Hold your nose and vote. I tell you, only two type of people in Liberia don't like Cummings. Number one, people supporting George Weah. People that are benefiting from the Weah administration don't want it to go, and they are supporting Weah. And number two, people who want that Joe Boakai to be president and blame Cummings for competing with him. Period. There is no hatred on the street for Cummings. Liberians do not associate Cummings with any of their hardship. You know, now the United Party running around saying, oh, that Cummings greedy, that Cummings make the CPP, to split. Cummings and Musa Belete working for George Weah. That has been destroyed. Because how can Cummings be working with George Weah and George Weah be prosecuting Cummings? That's not possible. You not hear LMP even talk to Boakai about anything. He's not a threat. He's their friend now. So that's what happened yesterday. Benona Ure and Joseph Boakai took all the opposition secret and gave it to George Weah. This tells you that Joseph Boakai is not running for president. If he was running, he would never allow Ure to take their personal chat, their personal WhatsApp chat, and turn it over to Weah. What kind of presidential candidate does that? Even if we're running for school president, my support group, the chat room, I can never take that content and give it to my opponent. Then the president of the Republic of Liberia, do you know how many months of opposition conversation is in there? Do you know what manipulation the government can do to that set of documents and use it for propaganda effect? This is another proof that Boakai has sold out to Weah. And now he is helping to undermine Cummings' chances. One of the things would be to distract Cummings, to provide information. Because once we were playing together before and working together, you have that ability to share thoughts that I shared with you. And that's what Boakai is doing, because he's bitter. He's not going to be running. And he has been bought out by We Are. He is selling because he knows he can win. So the only benefit We Are can get from him is for him to play this role in trying to destroy Cummings. Period. The next thing the United Party is doing is that they have a group of callers that will keep calling on radio stations. They pay peanuts to call on radio stations and continue to attack Cummings' reputation systematically. So Joseph Dimon Boakai's strategy is slander. How do you perpetually slander the reputation of Cummings to try and limit his chances as Boakai will not be running? Let me just summarize for you some of the key reasons why Joseph Boakai is out of this race and he will not be running in 2023. Some of how he got to this point, how his presidential ambition collapsed. Number one, he chose harm over charm. When he had the opportunity to charm Ellen, to make her comfortable with him, they say you catch more flies with honey than vinegar. And you don't have to always fight people who are a threat to you. Sometimes you can give them incentive to be your supporter. Joseph Boakai lacks that finesse. So he chose to harm Ellen rather than to charm her. Harm her in what way? Collaborate with Vani Sherman, who was seeking revenge. Because Vani was arm-twisted to join the Unity Party in 2011. Vani did it to save his law firm Sherman & Sherman. When Sherman & Sherman survived, all of Vani's allies were removed from their position in the mining sector by Ellen Johnson Sirleaf. And then the last act of President Sirleaf before she left was to prosecute Vani Sherman in court. So Vani Sherman, as a net loser in the new Unity Party, merger, took a plan. His plan was to get everything back that Unity Party took from him by working with We Are. So Vani Sherman secretly flipped on Boakai. And Joseph Boakai did not take notice of this. And I will get to the reasons why. So his number one reason why today his presidential candidate, his presidential ambition is dead is because he chose to harm rather than to charm. One. Number two, he relied on others to finance his campaign. He never applied himself, invest his money and position himself to raise the capital that he needed for the election. Like put the money down in a box and have it be able to see it. He relies on promises. He relied on promises. And human beings are not reliable. It is very rarely that you find people to be reliable, that people will always keep their promises. Very few people. So Joe Boakai's financial strategy was to rely on pledges and donations from people. Relied on people. The next thing is he failed to unify or reunify the Unity Party. So there were only two ways Joseph Boakai could be a viable candidate in 2023. Number one, either you bring Ellen Johnson Sirleaf and her half of the party back, or you expand the party. You grow the party, which you needed money to do, to plant membership, to open offices across the country, attract new talent, and actively expand the party. He did not reunify the party. And then he also failed to expand it. Because standing your ground and not reconciling with Ellen requires you to work harder. You got to look for new partners. You got to expand the party. The expansion strategy was to work with the CPP, get everybody to support him, and then he will be able to jump over the fact that Ellen was not supporting him. He also woefully failed to do that. His poor health, Joseph Newman Boakai is not well. He himself said so. That after the elections, he had to undergo a surgery on his heart. Now, someone with heart issues should avoid stress. We all know political campaign in Liberia, that's stress. There are members of his family that are prevailing upon him to take the back seat, to step back. The next thing is the lack of talents around him. Joseph Boakai does not have the manpower to strategize his way to the executive mansion. There are two ways to keep manpower, capable manpower. I'm not talking about the Aussie boys. I'm talking about bomb throwers on the internet. I'm not talking about talkatives. I'm talking about skilled professionals who understand how this business is done. They're few, they are expensive, they have interests, and they are careful about which horse they back. Because of the internal division and because of his inability to reunify the party and make everybody feel a part of it, some of the people who had that insight and those skills and the executive experience have stayed away, not trusting his intentions because of the way he positioned himself. He also lacks the financial resources to get capable United Partisans to neglect their job in private sector, self-employment, or in government parastatals. There are still United Party people working in the government as technicians. They are unable to show themselves as United Partisans because their livelihood will be threatened. Because the George Weah government, unfortunately, uses economic strangulation as one of his political strategies to subdue the opposition. So if you show yourself to be an oppositionist, as soon as CDC came to power, a lot of these technocrats moved over. They went to the sycamore tree. The people that United Party had sent to school, the people that United Party had educated, the people that were supposed to be the cream of the United Party, those who went and got the masters in public administration and this, that, and the other, the talents that were supposed to be the advantage of United Party. Some of them gone to America. Some of them are here working in the private sector quietly. Even if they come on Facebook under false names to say JMB, that's the extent of their support. They are not going to spend 20 hours or 14 hours strategizing along with Boakai, helping him. So bad is the human resource deficit that Joseph Boakai relies on Henry Costa for strategy. An impulsive person for strategy. Right? So that's one of the reasons his presidential ambition is crumbling. So lacking money and lacking the confidence of Salif time operatives, Boakai has fallen back on nepotism. He has Jay Kabakoli, who is his nephew, the chairman of the party, Amin Mudad, who is also a nephew, uncle, and nieces running United Party. That's one of the reasons. These are not people that are emotionally detached and dispassionate and coldly calculating Boakai way to the executive mansion. These are relatives, some of them angling for the benefits of being in charge. And so these are the 6 reasons why Joseph Newman Boakai is out of the race. Number 1, he chose to harm rather than to charm. Number 2, he relied on other people for money. Number 3, he failed to reunify the Unity Party. Number 4, his poor health. Number 5, his lack of talents around him. And number 6, he is prone to miscalculations that make him vulnerable to Trojan horses. So, Vani Shemo told Joe Boakai to betray Bromsky for the second time. Vani Shemo told Joe Boakai to ask for runoff rather than rerun. When Bromsky lawsuit made it before the Supreme Court, the relief that Charles Walker Bromsky was asking for in his original petition was that the election results of 2017 be thrown out and that the whole process be rerun. United Party joined the suit. They joined the suit, made himself a part of the suit. Vani Shemo seized the cameras, putting up showmanship at the National Elections Commission. He was actually in a deal with CDC already, but he couldn't do harm from being afar. So he inserted himself into the court case, used his position to undermine that lawsuit. Charles Walker Bromsky was surprised to see that the Unity Party had put in their pleadings that they want the relief of rerun. Had put in the suit that they want a relief of runoff. They want to go to the runoff. They just want the list to be cleaned, some steps, some reforms to be taken, then they go to runoff. Sherman, because of that masterpiece, his ability to deceive Boakai into doing what ultimately robbed Boakai of 2017, he was handsomely rewarded with the confidence of George Manneh Weah. Sherman supported Weah once in 2005 in the second round. So all he did was, number one, tell Boakai that in order for me to support you, you got to attack Ellen, you got to distance yourself from Ellen. So now Boakai created acrimony between he and Ellen, so couldn't go to Ellen for help. So now you isolate him. You divided the Unity Party because Sherman is originally from the Liberian Action Party. Boakai's miscalculation led him in to believing Sherman and then using Sherman and Wilmer Pay as allies. Just as today he's using Ure, who is trying to save Lone Star Cell, get privileged contracts from the government, and be seen as relevant in the eye of George Manneh Weah. The US know they cannot get power. The US know they cannot get power, but they can get close to power. And in US calculation, why should he change a president that he calls his little brother, a president that he has excellent relationship with? He said on his phone that he can just pick up the phone and call Nathaniel McGill, and Nathaniel McGill will answer him, and Nathaniel McGill will listen to him. Then how are you opposition? You're opposition to what? You're opposition to what? But Joseph Newman Boakai is a bit too thick. It's a bit too thick to be a politician, a bit too thick. So just as he allowed the hawk into the hen, into the chicken coop, that's how he's doing it again. The same way he trusted God with cassava leaf in 2017, that is the same way he is doing it again in 2023. So Joseph Newman Boakai's miscalculation, his He is very prone to miscalculations. This is the reason he's not going to be a candidate. But will his supporters ever listen? They talk about Cummings being greedy. How many years has Cummings spent on government payroll? How many years? The answer is 0. Not a single year. Joseph Newman Boakai has been vice president. Cummings has never been anything in the government system. So who greedy? Who's greedy? Joseph Boakai's problem is himself. It's not Ellen. It's not Cummings. It's not Musability. His problem is himself. That is the truth. And now this lawsuit that he's associated with has further exposed him. It has driven opinion away from him, because the view before was that we are fierce Boakai. That's why he is secretly supporting Cummings. But now, with we are arresting Cummings and prosecuting him in the court, that thought has shifted. The pendulum has shifted. You've made Cummings the new front runner. Joseph Newman Boakai, only option now is to revenge and to help Weah get second term. He is no longer working to make Weah one-term president in earnest. Thanks for being there. See you tomorrow with another fiery edition of the Dumoy Factor. It's goodbye for me.